Now it's 8:30, so let's just get started. Thanks so much again for being here, of course. Happy to be with you guys. Good morning. Feel free to just say good morning or hello, whatever you like right now in the chat. Hi there, Amy, Saida, Sabrina, Vanessa, Darley, Timothy, Ricardo, Sheridan, Kiwi, Nadia, Lillian, Leela, Ariana, Daniela, Lindsay, Joseph, Daniela. Good to see you guys. Good to be with you again. And so let me just start off with a couple of things. Stephanie, good to see you too. I just want to kind of recap the material from the last lecture, just say a few things about it to summarize it and make sure it's clear. And then we're going to continue on the same theme. We have some more notes on the topic of deductive arguments. We're going to learn about 4 different forms of deductively valid argument today. So that's going to be our main goal. And also, I'm going to give you guys the first homework assignment instructions, and I'll post that to Canvas as well. That is going to be due in 1 week, and you'll just bring that to class next Thursday morning when we meet. So we'll have enough information after today's meeting to give you the full details on the first homework. And as usual, feel free to interact and get involved in the chat however you can, whether it's through the typed out chat interface, using the mic, or whatever you'd like. So, okay, as you guys know, this is a class in critical thinking. We're trying to be the sort of people that wouldn't believe claims unless they were based on good arguments. Also, that could provide good arguments or reasons in support of our own claims when we make them to other people. Part of that is being able to understand what arguments are. So arguments are sets of 2 or more sentences. We have one conclusion and at least one premise. The conclusion of the argument is a statement that you're trying to prove to be true, and the premises are the evidence or the reasons that give support for the conclusion. The point of the argument is to show that the conclusion is true, which means that whatever the sentence says matches reality. And when a person believes a sentence, that means they think it's true. Now, last time we went further by talking about what's deductive and inductive argument. And we all spent some time considering the topic of what is a deductively valid argument. So let me know if anyone can remember that. What does it mean for an argument to be deductively valid? Let's hear that. Someone can tell me, just checking in with you. So if it's a deductively valid argument, what does that mean? Just takes a minute. I'll let you collect your thoughts, look at your notes, but use your memories. But the words if and then are part of the definition. So if all the premises are true, that's part of it. Then what? If those premises are all true, then let's get the last part. Then the conclusion must also be true. Perfect. That's right. So when you have a deductively valid argument, the truth of the premises would guarantee that the conclusion is true also. So like Vulich was born in the 80s. I don't know. I'm just going to say, like, you, could be any of you. Student, fill in the name, was born in the 2000s. So if Vulich was born in the 80s and student was born in the 2000s, what is the valid conclusion of this argument? Let me know, just looking at it. There's something that clearly follows that has to be true if those 2 statements are true. Let me just hear from you. Therefore, Vulich is older than the student, yes. Okay, now, this is deductively valid because in case these 2 statements are facts and in case they're true, there's no way for that to be false. If I was born in the 80s and the student was born in the 2000s, then it does just logically imply that I'm older than that student because of the way the numbers are lining up and the way the numbers are in the greater and less than relation. It could be another example, like using the words all or no. If I say to you that no man has walked on Mars, and Donald Trump is a man, and therefore Donald Trump has not walked on Mars. This is yet another deductively valid argument, because if the premises are true, they guarantee that the conclusion is as well. Now, I want us to check in on one other thing. What does it mean for an argument to be sound? What's a sound argument? Just looking for the definition real quick, if you can fish that out for me. If an argument is sound, what do we know? What does that mean? Just hold for a second while you get your answer ready for me, but let me know as soon as you got it. Don't keep me in suspense forever. What is a sound argument? Okay, good, Angelica. When a deductively valid argument has all true premises, correct. So what that implies is that there can be some valid arguments that are not sound. On the other hand, there can be valid arguments which have all true premises, which gives them that additional feature of being sound. But you don't really need to have all true premises to be a sound argument, in order to be a valid argument. In order to be a valid argument, it just has to be that that conclusion is a result that logically follows from the premises, whatever they say. So all humans were born in France. Leonardo DiCaprio is a human. What will be the conclusion of that one? Just real fast, if you can point it out for me. All humans were born in France. Leonardo DiCaprio, the actor, is a human. And what would be the conclusion here? And therefore, Leo DiCaprio was born in France. Now, just while this is on the table here, first question, is the argument valid? Let me just know that simple answer. Is the argument here valid? Yes, it is valid. I saw that in a direct message from one student, but do you guys comprehend this? It's valid. Why? Let me hear. Tell me why. Why is it valid? Just want to get you in the habit of being able to work with these concepts a little. So just one time, if you could tell me, why is it valid? It is valid. Yes, it is. Correct. But why, though? Why is that the right answer? Challenge yourself. Try to give that answer to me. Okay, Sheridan. Conclusion makes sense with the premises. It's not exactly enough, though, because makes sense is a vague and ambiguous term. Anything can make sense. You say, Daniela, an argument can still be valid without being sound. Yes, but okay, good. Now, Gabriel, assuming the premises are true, the conclusion is also true. There you go. That's the right kind of answer, Gabriel. And for everybody, let's focus on that. If these statements were true, hypothetically, if they were true, imagine that world, then in that case, this would have to be true, because the information stated here implies this piece of information below. So when you evaluate validity, you just have to look at the information content and forget about the real world and just consider whether or not the conclusion statement is a logical consequence that is produced by the premises. Now, on the other hand, though, second question, is it sound? Is this argument sound? Yes, it is sound. No, wait, it's not sound. Ricardo, stop. You threw me off. I was hoping there would never be a wrong answer here. It is not sound. Ricardo, why did you say it's sound? It's not sound. Because, why not? Someone tell me why it's not sound. First premise is false. Okay, clear. The first premise says all humans were born in France. Were you born in France? Because if you weren't, then you already know this is not true. It says all of them were. All, every single one. That's not true. So if there's even one statement that's not correct to the reality, then it's not a sound argument. Yeah, no, hypothetical, that's good, Ricardo, but that's only when you assess the validity. The soundness requires that you actually compare the statements to the facts. So although it's valid in terms of the logical entailment from the premises to the conclusion, it is not sound because it contains a false premise. Now, if I say here, all humans were born on the planet Earth, and Leonardo DiCaprio is a human, what will be the conclusion now? Hopefully it's obvious to you, right? If all humans were born on Earth and Leonardo DiCaprio is a human, it certainly follows that DiCaprio was born where? Just fill in the blank here for me. On Earth, yes. Now, by making that edit to the argument, it's gone from being an argument that was what? Valid but not sound, to now what's the status of this argument? Let me hear it. This is a sound argument, correct. It's sound because it's valid, plus, are these statements all true? Well, yes, they are. I mean, all humans were born on Earth, at least up to this point in time. There's never been a baby born in outer space, like on the space station or something. So every human that lives was born on Earth. Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the human beings, so it obviously follows that he was born on Earth. You know, okay, so like, look, if these are the humans, and these are the things that were born on Earth, DiCaprio is one of the humans, so he's clearly contained within the larger set of things, all of whom were born on the Earth. Okay, so there we go. That's just a little quick review for you of validity and soundness. And of course, you can have arguments that are not valid as well. So like if I just say to you, some men have long hair, Biden is a man, so therefore Biden has long hair. Is that valid? It's not valid. It's not valid. No, why not? Because the conclusion is not guaranteed by the information here. This just says that some men have long hair. It doesn't say all of them do. So it's possible for some men to have long hair be true. It's possible for Biden as a man to also be true, and yet to not have the long hair, because, you know, here are the human beings, humans. Here are the long hairs. So you've got some human beings that have long hair, but of course Biden is on this side of the little Venn diagram, and so he's one that doesn't. The conclusion is not logically guaranteed by the premises, so that's invalid. All right, just making a quick point to distinguish validity from invalidity. No, it's not inductive, not yet. I hear one direct message coming. We're not dealing with the induction yet. Now I'm switching to that. So here we go. What does it mean for an argument to be inductively strong? This is a different definition. So with validity, we say that if the premises are true, then the conclusion must be necessarily true. But with inductive strength, what's the difference? Tell me the definition of an inductively strong argument. Let's get that one out there. So now we are speaking about induction. We've covered the deductive review. What is an inductively strong argument? What does it mean? Okay, good, thank you. So if all the premises are true, then the conclusion is highly likely to also be true. Yeah. So can anybody come up with like possibly an example of an inductively strong argument? What do you think could be such an example? So here's like the sort of pattern you're going to be trying to look for in your mind. State some premises, or at least one, which gives a track record of something that has happened reliably over the past, and then let the conclusion just be that the statement that that will happen again, or that that will happen the next time too. So what could be such an example? Anybody can throw one out there. No, Ricardo, no. First of all, that argument, if you really wrote it down, that wouldn't be valid either. Because just because salmon and trout have gills, that doesn't imply that all sea life has gills, and it doesn't necessarily. But maybe you're just thinking if you only examined those two fish and you saw that they would have gills, you would conclude that all salmon and all fish have gills. I guess it's possible. Maybe I could say it's a possible inductive argument, but based on only two fish, really? I mean, don't you think you'd have to maybe examine more of them for the conclusion to be really strong? But yeah, I mean, salmon and trout have gills, so all sea life has gills. It can kind of work. I would have thought maybe you'd like list additional fish, like, you know, salmon gills, trout gills, whatever, cod, carp, and therefore all sea life has gills. But that's a good enough example. It's only based on two cases, though, which is why I was thinking, you know, you could have something even a little bit more powerful and strong. But that's okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Another example? interesting example. What's another one? Just clear your mind, think, and let me hear it. An inductive argument. A pattern over time, something that's always happened the same way, or something that has never happened yet, and so we say it won't happen, something along those lines. What do you have for me? Come on, guys, you can't all put it on Ricardo with the salmon and the gills thing, and that's the only example. Let's keep it moving. Give me another one, please. Yes, that's on you. Go ahead. Please type it out or say it. Use your microphone. Do whatever you need to do. But get an example on the table. Because if you don't, what? You don't understand it? I know I taught it to you, so I know you understand it. So just go ahead. Try your hand at it. Because you're going to have to do it anyway. Like on tests and things, I'm going to say, here, give an example. Then you will write it down in the test. So this is practice for that. Let's hear it. What's an inductively strong argument? Even if it's a failed attempt, it's fine. Just go ahead and attempt something. Can't have dead air. It's a waste of time. Go ahead. Okay, if you can't do it, then ask me a question like, what's confusing to you? What's happening, family? You guys tired today? What's up? Just give me an example. Okay, so in the direct message, I hear one example that says this. I've gotten up every morning at 7:30, so therefore I'll wake up tomorrow at 7:30. That's pretty good. Let me just add one thing that could maybe offer a little bit more clarity to it. When you say that you have gotten up every morning at 7:30, it should be stated not categorically, but in terms of a time frame. So you can say something like, I've gotten up every morning at 7:30 for like 18 years, give a number of years or a certain amount of time. And then the conclusion based on that will be that you'll wake up tomorrow at that time. Because if you just say every morning, it sounds more like deduction, like all mornings I wake up at 7:30. Tomorrow was a morning, so I wake up at 7:30. So it's good to just state the range of time in some of these inductive arguments, and that helps the statement of it. But that's a good example. For the past month, that's fair. Okay, good. Now another direct message. Aliens have never been seen on Earth. Okay, good. And therefore aliens, well, yeah, but you have to say more than just aliens have never been seen on Earth by humans. Like you have to state the conclusion that follows from that. So aliens have never been seen on Earth by humans, let's say in 100,000 years. So aliens will not be seen by humans tomorrow or something like that. So get in the habit of like stating it in that way. Give the background amount of time that the phenomena has or has not existed. And then the conclusion is just going to be the statement that it will happen one more time at least, or in the next instance. Very good. Okay, now, if a football team has won 5 games every Saturday for the past 2 months, therefore the football team will win next Saturday. That's fine, yeah. So you could talk about the football team's success on consecutive Saturdays. They've been winning every Saturday for 2 months, so therefore they'll win next Saturday. That's very good. I hear another one from a student which says most Asian people have dark hair. Julie is Asian, and therefore Julie has dark hair. That's fine too. If you say most, then the odds are good that the individual from that category would have it, but it's not a guarantee, which is fine with induction, because induction just leads us to a probable conclusion. Okay, good, guys. See, I knew you could do it. Sometimes it just takes a minute to kind of clear your mind, but I have to wait and be a little patient with you because I want you to be able to engage, and that's an important part, the interaction that we have in these meetings. Another direct message says, in the past summers, birds come eat from our bird feeder. Therefore, next summer, birds will eat from the bird feeder. I like that as well. You could be a bit more specific about how many past summers, because if it was just one past summer, maybe that wouldn't be enough reasonable support. But if it's like 5, 6, or however many, that strengthens the argument. So with inductive arguments, strength is not an all or nothing thing. It's a matter of degree. So like if I told you that I've worked out for 5 days in a row, so I'll work out tomorrow, that's got some strength to it. But if I told you that I've been working out every day for like 10 years, then the strength of the conclusion is enhanced because there's a longer track record behind it. So it's always kind of helpful then in some cases to refer to that in order to make the conclusion strength clear. All right, guys, very good then. And of course, you can have an inductively weak argument as well, like where a person makes a claim that's not even probable based on the evidence. So like, I won the lottery yesterday. it would not be a very strong conclusion to say, so therefore I'll win the lottery tomorrow, because you know the winning of the lottery is such an unlikely event and it's not going to repeat. Or I got struck by lightning last week, so I'll get struck by lightning again this week. Highly unlikely to happen twice. So those are kind of not strong inductive arguments, but they have the structure of an inductive argument despite the fact that they're not got a probable conclusion. Okay, guys, thank you so much for that review. So now what we will do is we'll move on and we'll talk a little bit more about some different types of deductively valid arguments. So there are 4 forms of deductively valid argument that we will have to learn about today. Okay, so forms of deductively valid argument. When you can understand that these deductively valid arguments can be placed into a format, then once you learn the format, you can generate infinitely many different variations on the example just using the format by itself. Okay, now the thing I'm going to write here is not one of the exact forms that we're going to be required to know, but it will help us to just get the idea in the mind. So suppose I have this type of argument form, and it says all A's are B's. Now, what we're doing with these letters A and B are just, we're using them as variables to stand for whatever the subject matter might be in the specific example. So this could be like all dogs are mammals, or all men are mortal, or I don't know, all fish can swim, you know, whatever. So all A's are B's. Suppose the second premise just claims that some individual, which we will label X, is an A. They're a member of the category A. So if all A's are B's and X is an A, then what is the valid conclusion that would follow here? Let me see if anyone can figure that one out. All A's are B's. X is an A. So therefore what? X is a B, correct. All right, now this is a form of an argument which would be deductively valid. Sometimes we call these forms syllogisms. Syllogisms are forms of deductively valid argument which contain 2 premises that lead to the conclusion. Just to show that it's valid, let's make it visual. So say that these are A's. All A's are B's. Wait, sorry, Lillian. No, not that all B's are X's. That doesn't follow. All A's are B's, X is an A. So if all A's are B's, then this is the set A, and it's a subset of B. All A's are B's, right? Everything that's A is inside of this category. So then X is an A. Obviously, then X falls within this set. And so then it's obviously contained within the broader set of B. Now, it would not follow that all B's are X's. Just because all A's are B's and X is an A, we've got no ability to say that all B's are X's. No. Because you can have, let's see here, all A's are B's. So we don't know what the category referred to by X is. X is an A, but X is a singular term instead of a class. So it wouldn't be proper to say all B's are X's because X's is not a category. It's like the name of a person, like John, instead of a category of things like mammal or human being. So anyway, yeah, don't worry about that. That is a form of deductively valid argument. Now, once you know the format, you could fill in the blank of A, B, and X, and you would always generate a valid argument as long as you consistently substituted terms for these letters. So if I say to you, like, all men can fly, and let's say Mitch McConnell is a man, and so therefore Mitch McConnell can fly, that would be valid but not sound, just because of the format. The format will guarantee validity for any substitution of terms that we plug in for A, B, and X. Like all dogs are mammals, and golden retriever is a dog, so therefore golden retriever is a mammal. In that case, we'd be treating the term A as dogs, B as mammals, and X as a specific type of dog. Knowing the valid argument form is helpful because it allows you to then generate as many random examples of valid arguments as you want once you have that form. So like if you're working on a test or something and the question was provide an example of a valid argument, you could simply use the format to generate one. And so that's like how this is going to go. Now the 4 forms that we're going to learn today have specific names, and we're going to have to know what they are and how they work one by one. So the first of our 4 deductively valid argument forms has a name which is called Disjunctive Syllogism. And okay, so let me put that in the chat really fast. Disjunctive syllogism. Oops, no, sorry. I got to put it in the group chat to everybody. My bad. Okay, so disjunctive syllogism. The disjunctive syllogism also has like a sort of separate name, and I want you guys to be familiar with both because it's referred to with either title. So it's also sometimes called the argument from elimination. So let me just make that clear to you, aka also known as argument from elimination. Okay, so disjunctive syllogism. The syllogism part of the name comes from the fact that it is a form of valid argument with 2 premises. The disjunctive part of the name is because of another reason. So in language and in logic and grammar, there's a certain type of sentence which is labeled a disjunction. And this disjunctive syllogism utilizes that type of sentence in the overall structure of the argument. So a disjunction what is a disjunction? It's an either-or sentence. Okay? An either-or sentence. I'll put that in the chat as well. Disjunction, an either-or sentence. And the form of a disjunction is this type of sentence. It says, so the way that a disjunction looks on the page is this, either A or B. Okay, either A or B. For an example, either A or B. Now, let me explain what's going on with these letters. The disjunction which says either A or B. The 2 letters stand for different information, and we call the 2 parts that are on either side of the letter or the word or the 2 disjuncts. So every disjunction has 2 disjuncts. There's the left disjunct and the right disjunct. The left disjunct is the one that occurs before the word A. Before the word or. Okay, so in other words, this is the left disjunct, the first one. And the right-hand disjunct is obviously the one that occurs to the right of the word or. So it's B, either A or B. So let me give you some random examples of what might fill in A and B. Either I will go for a run or I will watch Netflix. Either I will go to class or I will sleep in. Either I will eat pizza or tacos for lunch. I will either major in chemistry or biology. My friend's flight is arriving either on United or American Airlines. So those are disjunctions. In every case, we have 2 things that are contrasted by the word or, either this or that. Okay, hopefully that's clear enough. If ever anything isn't clear, just please let me know so I can make it a little bit clearer for you. Now, a disjunctive syllogism uses this type of sentence as the first sentence in the overall argument form. Okay, so now, sentence 1 of the disjunctive syllogism, or if you want to call it argument from elimination, is a disjunction, which says either A or B. The second premise of the argument is going to negate one of the two disjuncts. And that's why we call it the argument from elimination, because in the second premise, we basically eliminate one of these two cases. So suppose that we have either A or B, and then we say not A. Not A. What follows then? If we know that either A or B is true, but we also know that not A is true, the logical conclusion then is what? Let's just see that from you. Either A or B, not A, and good. Therefore, B. That's right. Okay, and I'll put that whole structure in the chat one time. So here's the disjunctive syllogism format. Okay. I'm just copying it over to the YouTube version of the chat really fast. Give me a second. Okay, so whenever we deal with a disjunctive syllogism, it's this type of argument format and structure. It always starts with a disjunction, which is an either-or sentence. It proceeds then in the next statement to eliminate one, and then the conclusion is just whatever is left over that was not eliminated. So if I'm either going to eat pizza or tacos for lunch, but the pizza place is closed, then I'm going to have the tacos for lunch. Or if my friend's flight is arriving on either United or American Airlines, but I see that the United terminal is closed, then it must be on American Airlines. If the let's see, my book was taken by either my best friend or my roommate, but my best friend said that he didn't borrow it, so therefore my roommate has it. You know, my keys, they're either in my backpack or they're on my desk, but I look through my backpack and they're not in there, so the only other place they could be is my desk. Okay, so that's the argument from elimination. We deduce that this other disjunct is true once we can eliminate the alternative to it. Now, there's another possibility for how the argument can play out, and the only slight difference could be this. Suppose that we eliminate the other disjunct on the second premise line. Either A or B, not B. Now what would be the conclusion? Maybe you can tell me. That's correct. Thanks, Timothy. Yeah, so in this case, A is the conclusion because in this example, the other disjunct was eliminated. So what remains is the first one. So you can, the way it goes is that either of the two disjuncts can be denied, but whichever one is, it's the alternative that has to be the conclusion, okay? Now, let me try and make clear to you one mistake that I sometimes see students make with this type of argument. The most common mistake that is made that therefore you can try to avoid is this. So sometimes a student will do this, which is wrong. They'll have either A or B, so far so good, but then they'll make this error by saying A and therefore not B. And that's not valid. So we don't want to do that. The rule is that the second premise has to be the elimination of one of the disjuncts, and then the conclusion is the affirmation of the other one. But we can't have it in the reverse order, where like we affirm one of the disjuncts. That does not imply that the other one is false. And the reason for that is something kind of funny and technical about logic. So in everyday speech and conversation, just informally, when we use the word or, we use it in what's called the exclusive sense of the word or. So when we say this or that, what we usually intend by saying it is that it's going to be one or the other, but not both. So if I tell you that, you know, I'm either going to major in biology or chemistry, you would think that I'm going to pick one of those, but not the other, right? But in logic, the word or is used in what's called the inclusive sense. So when we say A or B, it's possible that they are both true, all right? So if somebody says that they will major either in chemistry or biology, and then you learn that they are majoring in chemistry, you cannot conclude that what? From the fact that someone says, I will major in either chemistry or biology, and then from the fact that they do major in chemistry, we cannot conclude then that they are just not going to what? It's possible, even though they're majoring in chemistry, for them to also what? That's a question. Just let me hear your answer. They can do a double major. Well, no, sorry, Maya, you're getting the wrong answer. So from the fact that they say they could major in one or the other, in the logical sense of the word or, they still have a chance in majoring in bio too. So we can't conclude that they don't major in the other major from the fact that they do major in one. But if we learn that they do not major in one of the two topics, then we can conclude that they are majoring in the other, because what they say in the beginning is, I will major in this or that. And what's inconsistent with that is if they don't major in either one. If they major in neither, then that would have been false. But it's possible that they can major in both and for that to still be true. So from the fact that they either do this or that, and then the first one is true, it does not follow that the other one is false. But the other way around, of course, does logically follow. So in simple terms, the second premise of the disjunctive syllogism cannot affirm one of the disjuncts. It has to eliminate it, deny it, negate it, and then the conclusion will be the assertion of the alternative disjunct. All right? Let me make that point one more time clear to you about the whole chemistry biology thing. People can double major. People can pick both majors. So if they say to you, I'll do this one or that one, and you've like looked at their coursework and you see that they're taking all these biology classes one semester, you cannot conclude that they're not majoring also in chemistry, because this or that is consistent with both things being true. Here's another example. Suppose that I tell you that I have either got a banana or an apple in my lunch bag. And then you reach in the bag and you pull out a banana. It's possible that I have both of the fruits in there, that there's also the apple in there as well. What would be false is if I don't have either of them and I have an orange, right? So if I say I have either got an apple or a banana in the bag, and you reach in there and there's neither thing, but there is an orange, then I just said something totally false, because neither was in there when I said either one was. But it's not false if you pull both of the items out, because it's true if I said I would either have an apple or a banana and I chose both. Sometimes this is done for humorous effect. Like I've heard jokes been made using this kind of feature. Someone is asked, would you like a beer or a cocktail? And then the answer is yes, meaning I want them both, instead of electing for one or the other. So, okay, guys, look, I'm just trying to make it clear that in everyday life, when you say A or B, and then you claim A, most people will just go ahead and assume not B. And that's the way we talk and think in most cases. But in logic, you just kind of have to get into the habit of knowing that or is used in the inclusive sense. So we cannot rule out an alternative disjunct once we assume that one is true. But we can assume that one is true once one of them is ruled out. Okay, so that's the disjunctive syllogism. And let me just see if any of you guys can quickly provide an example. Not too hard, all you got to do is write out a disjunct, an either or sentence, and then you have to continue by eliminating one of them, and then provide the conclusion, which will just be the alternative disjunct. So just try it out. Try to give an example real quick, and then we'll see what you can come up with. You're not alone, okay? You got a lot of classmates here, so there's no such thing as worrying about what your answer is. It's all just for the sake of learning. So what's an example of a disjunctive syllogism? Even if you just get us started with the first statement, we'll be able to work with whatever you have. But take a moment and then go ahead and give me some info in this chat or however you want. Because this is the point of the lesson today, just to get these four forms clear. And this is the first of the four, the disjunctive syllogism, the argument from elimination. So I just want to see you try it out. Okay, so she will either take the bike or walk to work. Okay, good. And then I'm supposing, what's next? I'll connect it. The bike's tire is flat. Okay, good. And therefore, clearly, if she would either bike or walk, but she doesn't have the bike, therefore she's walking. That's good. Or hey, I usually get coffee from Starbucks or Coffee Bean, but Starbucks what? I'm thinking you're going to say it's closed, but let me hear it out from you. Whenever you're ready, Jorge. Same to you, Sheridan. I'll look at your example while Jorge's finishing up what he was going to do. Sheridan, either Chick-fil-A or Raising Cane's. Okay, well, it's not a complete sentence. You could have said, I will either eat this or that, but I assume that's what you meant. Chick-fil-A is closed, and therefore I'm getting Raising Cane's. Nice. Yeah, there's a Raising Cane's close to where I live. It seems like they have even longer lines in the drive-thru than Chick-fil-A, which is surprising because of how everyone seems to love their chicken sandwiches. But good example, yeah. So you're going to get one or the other. The one place is closed, so you're going to the other. And then to you, Jorge, you're getting coffee from Starbucks or Coffee Bean. Starbucks is closed, and so clearly, therefore, you'll what? Just getting that conclusion. Just don't want to leave it out there. I see a direct message that says, I lost my book today. Either roommate A or B borrowed it. Roommate B was not home today. Very good. And so then it was roommate A. You could even give them names. Either my roommate John or my roommate Chris borrowed it. B wasn't home, so it had to be A. They're good. Therefore, I'll get Coffee Bean. All right, good, Jorge. All right, seems like we've got some good examples there and that it's coming through. Just wanted to touch base because when you just teach it and you don't see the responses, you're not 100% sure how clear it was. So I'm glad that we have that now. Okay, so there's more. There's a couple of other deductively valid forms of argument. And so the other three that we're going to learn today are all members of the same family, I guess you could call it, because they're all what are called hypothetical syllogisms. Okay, and there are three hypothetical syllogisms. So hypothetical syllogisms are called hypothetical syllogisms because they have a sentence in them which is called a hypothetical. And some people call these sentences conditionals. But the definition of it is this. A hypothetical sentence is an if-then sentence. Okay, let me just write that out in the chat too one time really quick. Okay, so hypothetical. There's an if-then sentence. A hypothetical, a synonym for the word hypothetical, sometimes they're also called conditionals. Okay, so that's like just its other given name. But it is an if-then sentence. And the structure that a conditional or a hypothetical has is like this. They always go in the following way. If A, then B. If A, then B. So that's how the form, anyway, of a hypothetical goes. Okay. Now, remember how I told you that with the disjunctive syllogism, the two letters A and B are like the two disjuncts of the disjunction. Like there's the two components. The first disjunct is A, the second disjunct is B. Okay, now in a hypothetical, these two letters also have designated titles. And the first part, if A, the if clause is called the antecedent. Okay? And the then clause of the conditional, it's what we call the consequent. Okay, so let me write that in the chat too, even though it's on the board. So okay. The if clause of the hypothetical is the antecedent. And the then clause, then be, that is the what we call consequent. Okay, and so the first part, the left side of the conditional, where it says if A, is the antecedent. The right part, where it says then B, that's the consequent. And antecedent means like what comes first, what is the thing that initiates the thing which follows afterward. And consequent means this is the result or the consequence that happens on the basis of the antecedent. Anybody know some Spanish? Like, I think, doesn't antes mean before? So like, that's maybe something to help remind you. This is the thing before, the antecedent. It's first, it's initial. Afterwards, what's coming from it is this consequent. So let me give you some random examples of hypothetical sentences. If I run, then I will sweat. If I fall, then I will bruise my knee. If I drink the alcohol, then I will have a hangover. If I don't know, throw the ball in the air, then it will hit the window. If I oversleep, then I will miss class. If I leave early, then I will get parking. If I'm on the 405 at 5 p.m., then I will be in traffic. Okay, so I'm just giving you like a random assortment just off the top of my head, but those are all hypothetical sentences, okay? And now there are three different members of the hypothetical syllogism family, okay? And I just start with the definition of a hypothetical so that that's clear. But now we actually have to put it together into an argument, okay? So there are three different types of these syllogisms. The first one, it's called Modus Ponens. Modus Ponens, just so the spelling and everything is obvious to you, I'm putting it in the chat. Okay, Modus Ponens now. So hypothetical syllogism is an umbrella term. Under it, these three different specific valid forms of argument fall. It's kind of like how the word mammal is an umbrella term, and under it there's tigers, cats, dogs, human beings. There's different species of mammals. So there's three, let's call them species of the hypothetical syllogism, and the first is modus ponens. The thing that all the hypothetical syllogisms have in common is they all use hypothetical statements. Well, let's see how this one goes. Okay, guys, so modus ponens. The first premise of modus ponens is simple enough. It's just a hypothetical. So it says if A, then B, for some A and some B. The second premise of modus ponens is just that it affirms A. Okay? So let's think about it logically, everybody. If we know that those two facts are true, if A, then B would happen, and then we also know that A is true, what's the conclusion from those 2 points of info? If A, then B, also A. So then what follows? What do you think could be the conclusion of that? It shouldn't be too bad, I hope. If A, then B, furthermore A, and so clearly the conclusion is what? A leads to B, A is true, so what is the conclusion? Therefore, B. That's right, B. You got it. So let me plug in some values here. If I run, then I will sweat. I'm running, therefore I'm sweating. If I live in Orange County, then I live in California. I live in Orange County, and therefore I live in California. If I drink this beverage, then I will be hungover. I drank the beverage, and therefore I'm hungover. So they're all just modus ponens arguments. The way they proceed is there's an if statement, an if-then statement. Then we are told that the antecedent is true, and so obviously that implies the conclusion. If my car is wet, then it rained. Suppose I have an outdoor parking spot. So if my car is wet, then it rained. My car is wet, and so therefore it must have rained. Making some sense, hopefully, guys. So the modus ponens argument has a separate sort of AKA side name as well. It's sometimes called affirming the antecedent. And I'll just put that in the chat too. So just so you know, it's sometimes called AKA affirming the antecedent. And the reason that it's also sometimes referred to by this other label is because that's actually what we do here in the argument. The second premise affirms the antecedent statement, and so that is what leads to the conclusion of the consequent. Modus ponens, affirming the antecedent. Does anybody want to try? Well, you should. So let's get some examples. If anyone could just list something out and just follow the format. It's easy enough when you just follow the format. So you just got to create 3 sentences which match to this pattern, and you just consistently have to replace for A and B. So if something, then something else. Second statement will be that the first thing happened, or it's true, and then the conclusion will just be that the consequent part became true or was true on the basis of the antecedent. So let's see if anyone can just throw out a random couple examples. Once you have the hypothetical, the first sentence, then you're just pretty much done because the rest of it is automatic. No, Caitlin, no, because no, you didn't write the words if then, so you don't even have a hypothetical in that example. If then, maybe if you had said if it's Friday, then we have a test. Today is Friday, and therefore we have a test. That will work, but we have to make sure that it follows the exact wording. So if and then have to be included. All right, Darlie, if it rains, then I will get wet. It's raining, therefore I'm getting wet. That's good. Let's continue along that same theme. What's another one? Caitlin, if you want to try again, then it'd be easy enough, I think, to just edit it slightly, but want you to get in the habit of using the proper terms. So another one coming in the direct message. If I work out, then I will be sore, but you skipped a line there in this message. So that's not correct because you don't have the second premise. The example I'm reading off of direct message says, if I work out, then I will be sore, therefore I'll be sore. But what's missing? The second premise. So it's not correct. Daniela, if there's no food in the bowl, then my dog ate his food. There was no food in the bowl, so the dog ate the food. That's very good. Yes, that's correct. Another one here from Jesus. If I do my homework now, then I don't have to do it later. I did my homework, and therefore I don't have to do it later. Good. Perfect. Let me see if there's even one or two more before I have a few other last things to say about this type of argument. But this is good. It seems like it's coming through. So let me just see one or two more while we're on the topic. Okay, here's one coming from the messages in my DMs. If I drink coffee, then I'll be energized. I drank coffee, so therefore now I am energized. Good. Maya, if I wake up on a weekday, then I have to go to school. It is a weekday. Well, you could have made it match more closely the wording of the first line, where you could say, I woke up I woke up today on whatever Thursday, and therefore I have to go to school. And now I see another attempt here from direct messages. If we have test every Friday and today is Friday, then I have a test today. Well, no, that's also still not correct, Caitlin, because you don't have then. You have to say if then. It can't just be if we have a test every Friday and, because that's a conjunction. So get it right. If a then be, just write it in the exact same structured format. So if you're going to say if we have a test every Friday, your really original example was if it is Friday, then we have a test. So write it in an if then. Sheridan, if I don't go to sleep at 10, then I am going to be tired for school. I slept at 12, and therefore I am tired. That's good. Another one, if I work out, then I'll be sore. I worked out, and therefore I am sore. Good. Jorge, if the man drinks a lot of alcohol, then he's probably drunk. Therefore, the man will wake up with a hangover. Ooh, no, Jorge, because it doesn't match. If the man drinks a lot of alcohol, then he's drunk. The second line has to be that the man drank the alcohol. You just skipped the second premise, so you have to correct that, but you'll do it later. Okay, so everybody good. With a few exceptions, we have some good examples here. To those that I had to correct, it's an easy fix. It's not too bad. All you got to do is just follow the right format. Ricardo, if I eat a lot of jalapenos, then I'll get spiced out. I'm eating food with jalapenos, and therefore I'm spiced out. That's good. It's also a little funny, so thank you. All right, let me say this about the modus ponens, everybody, because there's a common error that sometimes people make, and I'm going to try and block you from making that mistake. Because on tests that are coming up, this is going to be a question. It's going to be like, give me an example of modus ponens. And if you did this thing, you'd be making an error. So sometimes a student will get mixed up in their head. What's the proper order? And they'll do this, B, A. That's wrong, okay? That's switching around the consequent and the antecedent, and you can't do that. So like if I say to you that if I run, then I sweat, I'm sweating, and therefore I'm running, that's not necessarily the case, because I could be sweating for any number of other reasons, like just I'm nervous or something. So sweating doesn't imply running, but running does imply sweating. Or how about this? If I'm in California, then I'm in the United States. I'm in the United States, so therefore I'm in California. No, that doesn't logically follow because there's 49 other states I could be in. So just from the fact that I'm in the States, it doesn't follow that I'm in that state. But if we switched it around, of course, it would be logical because being in California does necessitate that I'm in the US, just not the other way around. Okay? So long story short, don't do this. You have to make it A and then the conclusion is B. But if you reverse it, then it's an invalid argument. Okay. Now, the next of our hypothetical syllogisms, because remember I told you there's three, it's kind of like the sibling of Modus Ponens, and it's known as Modus Tollens. Modus Tollens. Okay. Sorry, just 1 second. Yeah. Modus Tollens is the word that you see on the board, the name of this next argument form. And I'm just going to go ahead and start writing the form out now that we have a little bit of the background behind us. So the first premise of Modus Tollens, once again, it's just a hypothetical, so that much is still the same. If A, then B. But it goes in a slight different direction from there, okay? The second premise of Modus Tollens then says not B. So let me see if anyone can deduce the conclusion. If you know that if A, then B, but also not B, then what can we conclude? If A, then B, not B. So therefore, no, that's not it, Angelica, but it's a good attempt. You got it new. Therefore, not A. See, maybe, Angelica, you were thinking of a disjunction. With a disjunction, if you eliminate one, then the other's true. But this is an if-then, so it's a different logic. So A would lead to B, but B is false. And so clearly, if whatever would have happened in case A happened is false, then whatever leads to it didn't happen either. So like, if I run, then I will sweat, you understand? But I'm not sweating. And if I'm not sweating, then of course I'm not running, because if I had ran, then I would have sweated. So like A leads to B. Knowing that B is false is enough information to know that A did not happen either. So like, if I fell off of the Empire State Building, I would be dead. I'm not dead. And so if I'm not dead, then you know that something that would have killed me didn't happen, like falling off of the Empire State Building. Here, let's go in terms of the geography example. If I'm in California, then I'm in the United States. Fair? I think we can agree. Suppose I'm not in the United States. Then obviously I'm not in California either, because had I been in California, I would be in the States. From the fact that I'm not in the whole country, I'm certainly not in any part of it either. Okay, so like that's how Modus Tollens works. And it also has a separate side name, which they call denying the consequent. And that denying the consequent label is supposed to be helpful in making you remember the structure, because that's the second premise, what we do. In Modus Ponens, the second premise was affirming the antecedent part. In Modus Tollens, the second premise is denying the consequent part. So from the denial of the consequent, the negation, the denial of the antecedent follows. Okay, so let me put that in the chat really fast. Okay, aka denying the consequent. And just to get the structure of it in the chat as well, here's how that goes. If A, then B, just a conditional, a hypothetical. Then we have not B, okay? So therefore, the conclusion is not A. All right, and just get that copied over to my other stream really fast. Okay, so there we see the structure written out. If A, then B, not B, and so therefore not A. So now I invite you guys to get engaged and try and give me some examples of this, if you can. Just follow the format strictly. If A, then B, not B, and therefore not A. So you just have to plug in two pieces of info for A and B. Something that would cause something else, but that second thing did not happen, or it wasn't true. And so, of course, the initiating event didn't happen either. So let's hear some example. Just think of really all you have to think about to be creative is the first line, and from there everything else just goes automatically. So think of an if-then statement, and then proceed from there to deny the consequent, subsequently denying the antecedent. So let's see what you've got. Just hit me with the best example you can. Okay, Timothy says, if I give my dog a bath, then he will be wet. Well, you got it backwards. No, it's not correct. What's wrong with the example, Timothy? Look at it and tell me how it does not match the form. Or another student can tell me what's wrong. It's not correct. It's not correct. Why not? Somebody tell me what's wrong with this example. It's close, but it's not there. And the reason is why. It's a teachable moment. What's wrong with it? Can't point it out? I think you can. I want you to do it. Tell me what's wrong with that example. He is not wet, therefore he did not get a bath. Yes, that's correct, Sheridan. So is backwards. Look at what you wrote. You say, if I give my dog a bath and he'll be wet, he did not get a bath. He did not get a bath doesn't deny the consequent. It denies the antecedent. And that's an error. It has to be the second part that's denied, not B. B in your example is getting wet, not taking a bath. So you just switched around the conclusion and the second premise. Okay, Jason, if I'm playing golf and I'm spending money, I'm not spending money, and therefore I'm not playing golf. That's good. Thank you. So in your case, the consequent was denied, and the conclusion is the denial of the antecedent. If I have class today, then I'll go to school. I did not go to school today, therefore there wasn't class today. Okay, good. That's fine. Yeah, so if there was class, then you go to school. But you didn't go, so there wasn't class. Of course, it's not sound, because after all, going to class doesn't imply going to school at the current time just because we're virtual for the first week, but it's fine. That's a valid example. Let's get another one while you're on the topic, everybody. If A, then B, not B, so not A. A couple of correct examples. If this food is bad, then I'll get food poisoning. I didn't get food poisoning, and therefore the food was fine. That's a good and clever example. I like that. And let me make a few points on this while we're here. Okay, Ricardo, if I drink antifreeze, I will die. I'm still alive. Therefore, I didn't drink the antifreeze. Good, very good. Thank you. So that's clear. Joseph, if it rained today, then I will get wet. I didn't get wet, and therefore it didn't rain. That's also very good. Yeah. So there's one error that a lot of times people can make, and we've actually already seen it once, here. So let me just make sure to try and ward you off of that mistake. In reporting on Modus Ponens, sometimes a student will get confused and they will do this. This is wrong, and it's not valid. So suppose, like, if I'm in California, then I'm in the United States. I'm not in California. That does not imply that I'm not in the United States. You can still be in the United States even if you're not in California. But of course, if you weren't in the whole country, then you wouldn't be in that state either. So it works the other way around, but not when it's in this order. Okay? If I run, then I will sweat. I didn't run, so I didn't sweat. Not necessarily. I could have not run, but still lifted weights or done some other cardio activity and gained sweat from that. So this doesn't necessarily follow from those two statements in that example either. If I fell off the Empire State Building, then I would be dead, but I didn't fall off the Empire State Building. Still, though, I could have just taken too many drugs and had a drug overdose and died. So just because that cause of death did not occur didn't mean another one didn't. So in any case, this is invalid. This is not denying the consequent. That's denying the antecedent. So just don't do that. It has to strictly go in the order that we mentioned. Denying B, and then the conclusion you reach is the denial of A. And let me say this. So, like, suppose I have this. If I'm sad, then I won't go to work. If I'm sad, then I won't go to work. What would be the second premise here if this is modus tollens? I'm just trying to get you used to the idea of double negation, okay? Because if the consequent is stated in the negative, then denying it is going to turn into something that's affirmative. Okay, so like just try and think through that. What would be the second premise here if I deny that consequent? If I'm sad, then I won't go to work. If I am sad, then I will not go to work. So what is the negation of the consequent? Yes, Darley, I went to work. And so therefore, what's the conclusion? So therefore, therefore I'm not sad, or I am happy, whatever, yeah. Now this is just a little twist because notice that the second premise, it looks like it's not denying anything because it's saying I went to work. But going to work is the reverse of I won't go to work in the initial premise. So depending on the wording of the first premise, the negation may be stated in the negative or in the affirmative. Double negations are a part of speech. We don't always use them, but we sometimes do. Like, have you ever heard somebody try to agree with someone's statement by saying, well, you know, they're not wrong? They're not wrong is like a double negation. They're not wrong is equivalent to saying that they are correct. So if I say to you that, like, if I'm in California, then I'm not in New York, but I am in New York, and therefore I'm not in California, you'd clearly see that as an example of modus tollens, because the not being in New York is denied in the second premise where I say that I am. Okay, so like, question, right now, is it true that you're not watching a lecture? Are you not watching a lecture right now? Yes or no? Just a yes or no question. I asked, are you not watching a lecture? And that's yes. You are not watching a lecture because you are watching a lecture. So the statement that you're not is not true. Okay, it's a weird way to speak. We would usually just say I am watching a lecture, but it's equivalent logically saying that it is not the case that I am not. Okay, just a word on denial, because sometimes a double negation, the denial will be written in the affirmative. Okay, and it just depends on the example. Okay, so there's just one last type of hypothetical syllogism we want to learn about, and it's called the chain argument. Chain argument. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the chain argument has this type of form. It's all hypotheticals in this case. So I don't know if that makes it easier or harder, but it's all hypothetical. So we start with if A, then B. And the second premise continues by saying if B, then C. So like what was the consequent of the last premise becomes the antecedent of the next one. And with the chain argument, it actually could go more than two premises. It could go on and on, but let's just, for the sake of brevity, cut it right here. Now, I'll give you a hint. The conclusion is going to be another if-then. But what do you think the if-then statement will say? We go if A, then B, and if B, then C. So in the end, the conclusion is that if what, then what? What do you think? If A, then C. Very good, Moon. Yes. Okay, so if A causes B and B causes C, then overall, if A occurs, then through this chain reaction of events, C will also occur. Okay, so like if I run, then I will sweat. And if I sweat, then I will need to take a shower. So if I run, then I will need to take a shower. If I study, then I will pass the test. If I pass the test, then I will graduate. So if I study, then I will graduate. If I wake up late, then I will miss the bus. And if I miss the bus, then I won't take my test. So if I wake up late, then I won't take my test. You see, like, this is how the chain argument goes. It's just if one thing, then another. And if that other thing, then yet another. So if the first event, then of course the last in the series too. Okay, so let me go ahead and just put the proper form here in the chat. Okay. Okay, so yeah, if A then B, if B then C. So therefore, if A, then in that case C. So can anybody maybe just quickly supply an example? I know we're getting a little short on time, so I'd love it if we just had a quick lightning round, quick burst of examples, and then I could just look at them and we'll be done. This is it for today. We just had to learn about these 4 forms: the argument from elimination, modus ponens, modus tollens, and the chain argument. That's it. And the homework assignment, it's going to be on the 3 hypothetical syllogisms. It's a workbook exercise from the textbook. And it just involves modus ponens, modus tollens, and the chain argument. You're going to look at a series of examples, and what you have to do is like fill in the missing statement, because in all the examples, there's one sentence that's missing. Most of the time, it's the missing conclusion. You're going to have to write the whole argument in standard form, provide the missing statement, and then indicate what type of argument format it is. And so it's going to be one of these 3. It's going to be either modus ponens, modus tollens, or the chain argument. And there's a set of 10 examples. But go ahead, while you're hearing what I'm saying, I'd love it if you could give me a chain argument example. Let's just get one in there. Okay, so Elira, if I don't set my alarm, I won't wake up. If I don't wake up, I'll miss my class. So therefore, if I don't set my alarm, I'll miss my class. Very good, yes. Similar to mine, missing the class as opposed, or not setting an alarm as opposed to waking up late. Strike out on your own. Let's get another one. Be creative. Just finding the page here for the homework assignment, but it's written in the syllabus too. And I'm going to send you guys a detailed note after class with the instructions that you need for this. Let me get the next example whenever you're ready. And let me just here, I'm going to look at the syllabus on my end. So to find the proper page number for you. Okay. Yeah, so it's only one example though, really? Okay, here we go. If I exercise, then I will get sore. If I get sore, then I'll have to stretch. Therefore, if I exercise, I will have to stretch. Very good. Okay, that's the kind of examples you're looking for. Now, the first homework 1, it's due next Thursday. That's February, what date? The 10th. And just bring it into class. It's going to be page 268 and 69. Oh, no, it's just 268. It doesn't continue on to the next page. So page 268, it's exercise 8-3 in the workbook, and it's letters A through J. Okay, so that's the homework assignment that's due next Thursday. And again, I'm going to double this with a message to you in Canvas to give you the clear directions. But like, for example, suppose that this was the written out statement in the book. And it just said, so if John walks his dog, then the dog will be happy. But the dog is not happy. Okay, now, this is not one of the examples that's actually in the homework book exercises, but it's similar to these. So if this was, for example, the question, what would be the missing statement? What would be the missing statement in this case? If John walks the dog will be happy, but the dog is not happy. And so therefore, what's the conclusion you think? Therefore, Josh did not walk the dog, okay? John did not walk the dog. Now, as an example of how to correctly answer the questions in the homework, you'd write the whole thing in standard form, meaning that the premises have to be on separate lines from each other, provided in a list, with the conclusion below. And then you would give like an asterisk, a highlight, or circle the missing statement. In this case, this was the missing statement that you had to add. And then the only leftover point is, what would be the name of this type of argument? You've got 3 options: modus ponens, modus tollens, or chain argument. Which one would this be? That's the question, and just let me know when you got the answer. Is it modus ponens, tollens, or chain? This one.
Professor, is that the homework, is it 9 through J?
That's letter A through J.
A through J, okay.
Yes, A through J. It's not the chain argument, Timothy, no. A chain argument has if-thens in every position. This does not. A chain argument goes from A to B to C and so on. This is modus tollens, that's right. It's modus tollens because we have denied the consequent in the second premise. So you would write modus tollens, or spell the whole thing out, and then that would be like a perfect answer for one of the 10 questions. There's 10 questions, they're each worth 10 points maximum. So you could receive deductions for a couple of reasons. First of all, for giving the wrong name of the argument form, that would be a lot of points off. If you didn't properly state the missing sentence, that would again be a problem. Also, you have to write the whole argument. You cannot just write the one missing sentence and then say what type of argument form it is. The reason for that is because there's at least one question in here where it's a missing premise instead of the missing conclusion. And so if you didn't write the full argument, then it wouldn't demonstrate to me, the grader, whether you knew if the missing sentence was in the premise position or in the conclusion position. So you have to write the whole argument out, supply the missing sentence, and then just say what type of argument it is. Now, I'm not going to give the answer, but just hear me read off the first question, and then I'll let you go, of course. The first question in the homework problem set says this: if Sam enlists in the Army, then he'll have to go to boot camp. But Sam does not have to go to boot camp. Okay, now we're going to stop here, but suppose that was the example. You'd have to answer it in the same way as this. You'd have to write the whole argument out, structure it in standard form, provide for me whatever sentence is missing, and then tell me what type of argument that was. Then you'd be on to the next, and you just have to do 10 of those. Those are 10 problems for your first homework due next Thursday. And once again, you get a more fulsome written description of that in a message that I'll send you guys today. So I'm going to let you go, but let me look at the last two examples I saw here. If I don't put gas in my, I'm thinking car, then I won't drive anywhere. If I don't drive anywhere, then I'll ride my bike. So therefore, if I don't put gas, I'll ride my bike. That's good. Ricardo, if I eat lots of food from the food court, I'll become unhealthy. If I get unhealthy, I'll get fat. So therefore, if I eat lots of food from the food court, I'll get fat. Good. Those are all chain argument examples, those last few. Okay, guys. I'm glad that we were able to get through the material today, and we'll, of course, review it again on Tuesday and make sure that it's all clear. But we've made good progress, and so I'm really happy with that. Thanks, everybody. Let me hear you say goodbye one time, or just type it out. Thanks again, and have a great weekend. I'll be in touch with you, and I'll see you in class. Remember, it's Langsdorff Hall, room 304. That's where we meet, and I'll see you guys there on Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. So looking forward to meeting up. All right, then. Until next time, take it easy. See you then. Okay, guys. Thanks again. I'm ending the YouTube stream. Till next time.